Well, such humour, but so true. Serious doubts have been expressed by the opposition members of the government's inability towards due diligence in spite of various committees and advisers being relied upon. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe came to power on a bandwagon of several promises to re-establish transparency and accountability and to create an equitable playing field and a lifestyle for all. Unfortunately, the delivery of these undertakings have been seriously compromised in the main because the Prime Minister has not delivered what he said. These are some matters where the Prime Minister has not delivered upon. 1. The Central Expressway, Phase 1 and Phase 3. Phase 1 is in bits and pieces. Phase 3 has not even started. They gave the impression that the loan for Phase 3 was a concessional arrangement. It now transpires that far from being a concessional arrangement, it is a very commercial proposal indeed. In any event, the bank has withdrawn. This is not what the Prime Minister said. Then, of course, we have the Volkswagen transaction. The simple action of making due diligence that Volkswagen AG did not have any plans of investing in Sri Lanka was thrown to the winds. It was left to Newsfirst to make a simple phone call to the head office in Germany to establish the veracity of this so-called investment. This, again, is not what the Prime Minister promised. Then let's take a look at the Singapore FTA. The Cabinet wanted it referred back to themselves after the Attorney General's observations. However, a known and long-time confidant of the Prime Minister in the shape and form of Malik Samarawickrama signed it anyway on a call that was clearly on his own. It didn't go back to Cabinet. This is clearly not what the Prime Minister promised us. As far as the LNG plant in Hambantota, once again, a simple due diligence exercise would have revealed that this $4 billion project was being proposed by a newly established company with an obscure address to boot. When we at Newsfirst exposed this, there was a mad scramble which saw 3 cabinet ministers fly off to the Middle East in search of the elusive investment. This is not the transparency promised. Then, of course, there was the Wi-Fi project, the Wi-Fi for all project. The Prime Minister promised the nation free Wi-Fi. The Google Loon project crash-landed. Alas, the people's hopes for Wi-Fi crashed too with that. This is not what the Prime Minister promised. The Prime Minister's government said that with stones blocking the entrance to the Hambantota port, that this was a vanity project. It is this same vanity project, presumably complete with rocks, that Ranil Wickremesinghe managed to lease to the Chinese for 99 years for $1.2 billion. The Prime Minister said he had to do this because he couldn't afford the repayments, yet, strangely, the money received by the Sri Lanka Ports Authority by the Chinese was transferred to the General Treasury. The loan is presumably still active, meaning it's unpaid. This is not what he promised. Matala Airport, the Prime Minister and his government cited birds and more birds about the Matala Airport and used it for a while as a paddy storage facility. Yet, this is the same airport with all its emptiness that they are negotiating to sell or lease to foreign interests. This is not what he promised. The 19th Amendment. Well, the 19th Amendment was on its own. The Supreme Court was of the view that the proposed Article 33(1), which stated that the President shall be a symbol of national unity, was incorrect and further stated that it should be deleted. These are little gundus that the Prime Minister throws into the spanner, it's a sort of into the works, a spoke in the wheels, to stymie progress, to stymie transparency, in spite of what he promised, transparency and accountability. And of course, then we have the matter of a very serious matter, and which is the central bank. In the history of Sri Lanka, never before has the central bank been listed under anyone other than the Ministry of Finance. And yet, in the interests of transparency, Mr. Wickremesinghe did exactly that, transferring the central bank to a ministry under which he was the minister. Well, in the interest of transparency, the Prime Minister, by his own admission, insisted on changing a system that had been in place since 1997, a system that the then Auditor General of Sri Lanka, Mr. Gamini Wijesinghe, said it on record that this system, since 1997, was the least cost methodology to obtain funds for the government. This false undertaking of transparency resulted in a spectacular loss of the people's monies. The losses that a Presidential Commission of Inquiry was found to have cost the EPF at least 8,500 million rupees, and the penalty for that would have been 17 billion rupees. And the accumulated losses to the nation's economy, well, that's anyone's guess. This is not what the Prime Minister promised. Well, the SOFA agreement. The Prime Minister denies anything other than the 1996 agreement that he has. Yet, he admits the receipt of a proposal from the United States of America and insists that he will not compromise Sri Lanka's sovereignty. In almost the same breath, he says that there is no change and attempt to belittle this serious matter. But he does so with his special brand of humor and comparing an agreement to be important only by the number of pages. The Prime Minister can quite easily table the draft, including any annexes, to a special committee in Parliament or to Parliament itself, instead of couching his actions with humor and disrespect for the wishes of the people of this country. Well, that's all part of what the Prime Minister has not delivered upon. That's the end of that bit of the news, and I'm going to hand it all back to Sandaru.